This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Well, good day, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today is Wednesday, December the 20th, 2023. We're so glad you could join us. Coming up a little later in the program, we talk about conservation agriculture bills that were just put into the hopper today by Iowa 3rd District Congressman Zach Nunn and Virginia 7th District Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger. We'll also take a look at that ag weather outlook, but first let's run down the markets. It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. Well, we're at the end of another trading day, and it's time to talk with Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. Robin, this Wednesday, what did we see in those grain markets?
Well, in the corn and soybeans, you could almost say it was a little bit more than watching paint dry. A little bit more volatility, more of the pressure, and we saw developing in the wheat market, and that's probably because of Egypt filled a recent wheat tender from Russia, and that plus the large Russian wheat supplies that's available and increased volume that's coming from Ukraine now is putting pressure on the whole wheat complex. So that saw more pressure as we moved through the day. It wasn't too bad early in the morning and overnight, but then it saw more pressure coming on through. So now in the corn side, we really didn't see a whole lot to really generate a whole lot of interest in the corn other than, and that's not interest, but Brazil in November surpassed the U.S. as a top corn supplier to China. That's a little concerning, or a lot concerning, I should say, not more than just a little concerning. For the first 11 months of this year, Brazil exported 8.8 million tons to China, where the U.S. only exported 6.5 million. That's a pretty hefty amount, even at 6.5 million, but we're falling back behind Brazil right now. And China has been trying to source some of their corn and soybean needs from other areas than putting so much reliance on the U.S. And we've seen that for a while. And over the years, we have seen some loss of market share as far as corn exports and soybean exports out into the world from the U.S. Now, on the other side, in the soybean market, Brazilian farmer group, it's called AproSoja. It's a farmer group, and they called for actually a reduction in Brazilian soybean crop by 20%. Whether that's realistic or not, but Mato Grosso harvests about 26% of the country's soybeans, and they've been really in a dry situation. Now we have that on again, off again. We're coming with some rain, then we don't get quite as much, and then we have a hotter period right now, and it's going to cool down again a little bit, and it's really likened to our U.S. weather market in the June and July timeframe. But so it's really a moving target up in the air, what we're going to come out of the soybeans, but that's keeping some pressure on the soybean market. Yesterday we saw more pressure. Today, probably not quite so much. There were no tenders overnight. Some of it might be the fact that we're moving closer to a 3-day weekend. Some of the positioning might be taking place a little earlier than usual, just because of, just what if they're turning their attention a little bit more toward the holidays already. Maybe not a whole lot of bearing on that. China also did grant Russia that they can provide corn from all areas of the country now. They used to have just a few areas that China would buy corn from out of Russia. Now they signed an agreement that they could buy corn from all areas, corn and rice from all regions. So you can see how that is progressing more toward them, trying to source things from different areas. So all of that put together, we did see some pressure on the corn and soybeans today, more pressure on the wheat, turning it into just more of like a overall negative ho-hum day on the corn and soybeans, more of a bearish day on the wheat.
All right, so switching gears to livestock, looking at those cattle and hog markets, what are we seeing in this Wednesday?
Well, cattle did a kind of an about face after opening up. Opened up and went lower a little bit, did an about face, found some strength, found some legs under it. There wasn't really any business being done today as far as cash is concerned. In Nebraska, there were some 168 to 170 bids for live and 270 bids for dressed. The asking prices mainly are around 173, 75, but very few asking prices. It seems like the feedlots are intent on holding back to later in the week. Now, later in the week, we do have on Friday, we have the cattle on feed report, and the expectations for December on feed numbers is 102.2% relative to last year. Placements in November at 96.2% and marketings in November at 93.2%. So that's the expectations. Kind of ironic that it's happening right before a 3-day weekend. So I think that's why we're probably seeing a little bit more positioning, maybe a day earlier, a day and a half earlier than usual. Now, box beef, though, didn't perform very well on the noon report. Choice were down 25 cents. Select was down $1.74. That's been a nemesis, really, as far as the box beef prices are concerned. They've been trending lower overall for a few months right now. So that's keeping a lid on that market at this point in time. We need to see some higher cash trade. We need to see some better demand out there. On the hog side, some continued weakness for the second day in a row. Not really finding the strength it needs to. The National Daily Direct midday report or morning report showed cash down $2.20. That's not a good situation. It was down yesterday as well. Midday cutouts were down, a huge $4.32. I don't think they're going to stay down that low, but that's pretty substantial for even a midday report. Now, again, with the hogs, we have a hog and pig report on Friday. So we have a really full day on Friday, cattle on feed, hog and pig, and the cold storage report. So that's really going to put a lot of information out there that people can digest over the 3-day weekend and going into the holiday next week. Now, all hogs and pigs estimates for December 1st are 99.6%. The kept for breeding at 98.7% and kept for marketing at 99.6%. So trade will develop based on what side of the average estimates will be released on Friday.
All right, well, lots for us to be thinking about. And, of course, even we have a holiday shortened week next week and heading into 2024. If folks want to be looking at some of their strategies coming up over the next few months, want to get some ideas of what to be thinking about, what's the best way for them to get in contact with agmarket.net?
Well, they can call me directly at 877-256-3253 or go to our website, agmarket.net. There's an 844 number there that you can call in on, and somebody will pick up the phone and be glad to work with you.
All right. Well, that's Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. Robin, thanks so much for taking the time to visit with us. You and yours have a very Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Yeah, same to you guys and to everybody else out there.
That again was Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. Let's take a look at how those numbers closed, courtesy of the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen. At the close, March corn was down 3 at 469 3/4. January beans down 4 1/4 at 1308 1/4. Soy meal down $3.30 at $399.90. Soy oil down 17 cents at $50.56. Chicago wheat down 12 3/4 at $6.10 even. Kansas wheat down 16 1/2 at $6.25. Minneapolis wheat down 10 1/4 at $7.18. Oats were down 6 1/2 at $3.78 3/4. February live cattle $1.52 higher at $170.30. January feeders $2.15 higher at $224.05. Lean hogs down 32 cents at $70.22. Pork cutouts unchanged at $81.72. Class 3 milk up 3 cents at $15.65. And that's been the Ag Market Recap. We're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. And when we come back, we talk with Iowa 3rd District Congressman Zach Nunn. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AMPM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Well, conservation agriculture has been something we've been keeping a close eye on over the past several years. Of course, making sure that we're doing better for soil health, water quality, and air quality is something all farmers are very concerned with. But sometimes the USDA and red tape in general from the federal government get in the way. Well, Iowa 3rd District Congressman Zach Nunn joined with Virginia 7th District Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger to sponsor and co-sponsor a set of bills hoping to eliminate some of that red tape and make it more easy for farmers to be a part of the conversation. Now we're joined right now by Zach Nunn. And Congressman Nunn, thanks so much, first of all, for taking the time to visit with us today.
Dustin, thrilled to be with you. We're traveling through beautiful Iowa, and if the weather stays like this, I think we'll all have a pretty happy Christmas.
So as we mentioned to start the outlet here, we know that there was 2 bills introduced by you and Congresswoman Spanberger. Tell us a little bit about what they're going to accomplish.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you very much. I think it's good that we have bipartisan bills when it comes to actually getting legislation accomplished. We had 3 bills passed through the House last week. That's good for a freshman any day of the week, but to get 3 through means a lot. And by having co-sponsors that we've worked with, we got a better chance of being successful in the Senate. So what this bill does, I've heard a lot from farmers this year. I'm on the Ag Committee working hard on the Farm Bill. We're also working on streamlining the Conservation Practice and Standard Act. And this is the Conservation Innovation Act that we're working on together. I think that anybody who's listening to this channel is from Iowa knows very well that our farmers are better stewards of the land than probably any conservationist in California or New York. We are the ones who prepare for the future. We've got the tools and the resources that we've got right here to be successful, and ultimately it's our way of life. We want to make sure that conservation takes place in the farm field and sustainable throughout. So that's why we've worked with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. That there are approximately 500,000 or 500,000 farmers across America who work to implement conservation practices, and a lot of innovation is really happening in the field, not at the USDA. We want to make sure that the best practices that are being determined in the field by farmers, by practitioners, by ranchers and growers are the things that are being reflected in the USDA, not the other way around. So this is one of the areas we're going to work with to make sure that we can really tee up what is working for the farmer can become the standard for the rest of the country and help drive policy in D.C. versus waiting for D.C. to tell us what and how and when we should be planting in the field.
Now, Congressman, in your bill, you say that you're looking for the creation of an Office of Conservation Innovation to help the ag community, further advance the conversation. Tell us a bit about how that's going to be a help to Iowa farmers and not just another level of bureaucracy.
Absolutely, great question. One of the areas here is we're trying to streamline what both the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service is doing. They have become, I'll say over the years, very bureaucratic, and there's hardly any opportunity right now for stakeholders such as Iowa farmers to get engaged in the process and share information out. It's become very top-heavy information out of D.C. down to the actual planters, growers. And this office would take out from what they currently have. This is not a new funding source, but it is to say there's got to be an on-ramp for America's producers to be able to get their best information in front of USDA. Specifically with the Conservation Innovation Act, this office would work within the NRCS to ensure the utilization of the most effective technologies. We're talking about AI and machine learning that's being practiced in the field right now. During the revision of the current conservation standards to develop a new standard. So really, in the baseline level, we want to be able to get information into USDA versus USDA coming up with a standard and blasting that out. The second one, Dustin, that you highlighted here is the Streamlining Conservation Practice Standard Act, and that would require the Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary Vilsack, to provide a process for stakeholders to provide input on each of the conservation practices during the review process. And so we're all on the same page. Review of all conservative or conservation practice standards are on a rolling basis every 5 years, and the establishment to expedite the process for a new conservation would allow for a quick on-ramp. So if we've got something that's really working, or we said, hey, this is a best practice in conservation that we want to see, we don't have to wait 5 years for people to be able to start implementing it and getting credit with USDA. This would allow them basically a fast lane to be able to get in there and start doing this in the field in a way that really helps not only the soil and the crop, but also the farmers who are leading this charge.
Now, moving on to other topics, we know that the Biden administration and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security have recently closed two main arteries for railroad crossings into Mexico from the United States and vice versa. Now, this affects 60 trains a day and over 4,500 cars. And you led a letter from the Iowa delegation to the administration and to Homeland Security, asking them to rethink their strategy, especially when it comes to border security.
Well, Dustin, you nailed it. Look, as a lifelong military guy, I've got 20 years, including operations on the border, both targeting cartels inside Mexico and flying recon operations at the border. I'm proud to be leading the Iowa delegation, who has all signed on to this direct letter to the president, to DHS. We've included the USDA in this to say this is a complete lack of strategy. Sadly, we've seen for the last 2 years and even longer the 6 million illegal migrants coming across the southern border. This is by all means a dumpster fire, and the Biden administration has chosen to pour gasoline on it by now saying we're going to shut down legitimate trade out of the United States into Mexico. So now we've got a double whammy for folks who don't want to see illegal immigration that taxes our communities, burdens our overall, relief structure for folks who need it here, while at the same time stopping one of our best markets, that of Mexico, Central America, and ultimately South America, by preventing legitimate freight trains from going across the Eagle Pass. And, I mean, you just look at the numbers, Dustin, and it's staggering. As you mentioned here, there's 60 transit trains sitting idle, 4,500 Union Pacific rail cars are going to have a delay and a backlog in the supply chain. And these rail crossings from the U.S. into Mexico are critically important transportation right here in Iowa for our agricultural products. Roughly 1 million U.S. jobs and 31% of American farm income are tied to these specific crossings. And since the Biden administration began, we haven't seen a real clear process not only to crack down on the illegal immigration, but we also haven't seen a situation where we're working with Mexico to make sure U.S.-based ag products are getting a fair shake at being sold not only in Mexico, but in our neighbors further to the south. This crossing ultimately hurts Americans in an attempt to prevent illegal crossings coming in from Mexico. We have got to have a comprehensive strategy that secures the border, allows for legal immigration in a process, but never shuts down our ability to trade with our biggest trade partner in the world by closing points of exit for U.S. ag export.
Now, of course, trains are what we heavily rely on right now this time of year to transport our goods from Iowa and across the whole Corn Belt, the ag regions, because of the fact, one, the Mississippi River is at historically low levels because of several years of drought. We also are seeing the fact that the Mississippi River is being shut down to our northern ports, and that means there's no traffic going south. And now with the railroads being shut down, that makes it an even bigger problem.
Dustin, you absolutely nailed it. I mean, the two main ways for Iowa to export our ag products are going to be barges down the Mississippi and Missouri, both of which are, we're at the minimum amount we can get down, and it's going to get even harder as we head into January. And then through rail. There is some trucking, but primarily it's going to be barge and rail. By shutting down our pathway to the Gulf with the Mississippi closing, and at the same time rail closures along the U.S.-Mexican border, we've effectively, cut off our nose to spite our face here on the immigration challenge. And I think that this reflects a larger sense of frustration that we've been working in the House. The, major bills that we passed here in America's Energy Independence, H.R. 1, and Border Security, H.R. 2, the first ones that were signed up, have not been actioned at all in the Senate. And I would really like to see, for the sake of the country, this is not a Republican or Democrat issue, a strategy on how we're going to deal with not just the illegal migration coming into the United States, but what comes with it, the human trafficking, the fentanyl problem from cartels buying things in China, but also our ability to effectively export and deliver to Mexico. We're talking about their energy, their food security as well, and we all know that food insecurity in the world results in really a very dangerous situation. So this has now made a horrible situation worse. I really hope that the administration will take your lead here, Dustin, as well as the Iowa delegation, saying we've got to put a plan in place on how to be able to secure the border, have effective trade, and cut down on the criminal activity. It's a very direct and simple ask, but so far we've heard no answers back, and that's why I'm proud to be leading this letter to specifically ask the Homeland Security team and the President with the USDA, what is our strategy going forward? Otherwise, we're going to continue to just run into a meat grinder here, and it's not going to help anyone.
Well, Congressman Nunn, I know you're very busy. We thank you for taking time to visit with us here today. Look forward to hearing more about this in the future.
Dustin, I really appreciate it, and thanks to all of our farmers as well. We're getting ready for next season. We'll talk with you soon.
That again was Iowa Congressman, 3rd District, Zach Nunn. Now let's take a look at the ag weather outlook. Well, sunshine and intermittent clouds was kind of the tale of the state here today as we're looking for more cloud cover to roll in, but the temperatures are going to be a little bit mild for this time of year, especially even after the first couple days we saw this week. What is it going to mean for us? Well, let's see what the National Weather Service has to say for the next 24 hours. Well, the temperature is looking a little more mild than they were earlier to start the week. Increasing clouds throughout the day is what we kind of saw. Temperatures were in those low to upper 40s. Now tonight, mostly cloudy skies, maybe a few peaks of the moon here and there, maybe a few sprinkles off and on, and we'll see lows in the 30s. And tomorrow, cloudy and foggy to start the day, chances of rain scattered throughout the state, and highs will be anywhere from the low 40s to the low 50s. Taking a look at the affiliate weather map for you for tomorrow, Cherokee looks to be mostly cloudy to partly sunny, chance of rain in 45. Shenandoah, cloudy, chance of rain 49. Des Moines, chance of rain 47. Waterloo, chance of rain 43, same as Clinton. And Albia will be seeing a chance of rain under mostly cloudy skies and 48 degrees. For more detailed forecasts in your area, tune to your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. That's been the Ag Weather Outlook, and that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and on our YouTube channel. Don't forget about our free market podcasts. You can find them on Google, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, and Podbean. And also, don't forget the Pods of Potential podcast that is coming out with our joint venture with the Iowa Soybean Association. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Riley Smith and Mark Magnuson and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.